I want to talk about this term called opportunity cost. It is largely used by economists, mathematicians, to determine the value or the cost of going down one path versus another path. It can be technically defined as the loss or potential gain from other alternatives when one alternative is chosen. This definition can be simplified a little bit by saying if option A gains you $8 and option B gains you $10, the opportunity cost of going with option A over option B is $2. Be a very simplified version of it. This concept is super easily digestible when it comes to math and economics, and even then there's a lot of nuance involved in it, and it really basically accounts for the straight line, right? So if I say, well, yes, the opportunity cost right now is $2, but I know in a year that option A is actually going to be $15, where option B is going to stay at $10, then the equation changes, the math changes. The opportunity cost formula doesn't necessarily account for things like that. And of course, you can't account for things that you don't know. So if you don't know what the price of X is going to be in a year, really difficult to calculate that. I like to think about this a lot in terms of investing, and this is something that I hear about a lot. So, for example, if you were gifted $20,000, you could choose to pay off your car, or you could choose to invest that $20,000. There is a pool of people that would say, well, of course, you should pay off your car. That way you don't have a monthly car payment. And there's another pool of people that would say, no, keep your car payment and invest that $20,000. If you were to look at it purely mathematically, investing it will get you $1,200 in the course of a year. So after a year, you will have gained $1,200 by essentially doing nothing. And you will have, if you pay off your car, you will have that extra money per month, but you will not make any gains on it. Now, there is a lot of other questions when it comes into this. If you are doing that, if you are paying off your car, are you using that extra $100 a month, a couple $100 a month to do something valuable? Are you buying stuff you don't need because you have a couple extra $100 a month? Are you saving it for something that you immediately needed? So therefore, investing it for a year wouldn't make sense. Are you really putting that money towards good use? Are you barely able to make your car payment as it is? So this would be a huge alleviation for you. There are a bunch of other factors and nuances when it comes to investing money and figuring out, okay, well, I should take this path over that path. But opportunity cost is a great way to calculate kind of the hard math of it. So how do we use this concept to figure out what we should do with our lives? Well, it's really just step one. There isn't a way to determine exactly, I'm going to make this much money with this job over this job, and therefore I'm for sure going to take this one. There are a million other factors at play, but it can be a great starting off point. So here's the math of if you are wanting to go to college, say you're 18, go to college and get a 4-year degree and get a job right out of college, or you graduate high school and you jump straight into the workforce. Obviously, those aren't the only two options, but this can be a great illustration of what it looks like on paper just by the math. All right, let's do the math here. So we'll have money, time. Here's the assumptions we're going to make. That if you go to college, you are going to spend $30,000. So you're negative $30,000. But you're going to make $65,000 a year, and you're going to get a 3% cost of living raise every year. So this would be college. This would be workforce, where you're going to start off, you're not going to be negative any money. You're going to make $48,000 a year, and you're going to get a 3% cost of living raise as well. And for both of these, you're going to work until you're 65 years old. So let's do it this way. So you're going to start off, we'll call this here 48K. And you're essentially going to go up. So this all in all is going to make you a total of $4,000,000 $819,032 throughout your whole life. That's what you're going to make. Now, if we go our college route, we're going to end up at negative 30,000 to start out with, and we're not going to start for 4 years. So our line's going to be there. But we are going to end up higher. So we're going to end up at $5,526,453. So this right here these both would be considered your opportunity cost, right? So it ends up being about $700,000. So the opportunity cost for you to not go to college is about $700K or 14.47% of income. $700K, honestly, really not that much, not that big of a deal. The questions that you have to ask yourself is work-life balance. Do you value the experience of college? Do you want to do the type of work you can only do with a college degree? And most importantly, is this a one-way decision? You can't ever ungo to college. You will always have gone to college. That doesn't mean that if you go to college, you can't also do something else. You can go back, you can go to tech school, you can not use your college degree and get a job that doesn't require it, but you can't ever ungo to college. If you don't go to college, you also can always go to college. I foresee in the next 50, 60 years, colleges will still be around. So you can still always go, right? But you can't ever ungo. That being said, the college experience when you're 18, very different than the college experience when you're 28 or 38. And then you have to do a whole new calculation on opportunity cost, and you're going to have to consider something called the sunk cost fallacy, which is another economic lifestyle video. And that essentially means you're going to have to give up what your life looks like right now to pursue something else. And there's a good chance, I would say almost 100% chance, that you are going to have to take a step back financially, and you are going to have to socially change your life. If you didn't go to college right out of high school and you went to a tech school or you got some on-the-job apprenticeship training to be a welder, you're 35 years old, you're welding, you're making, let's call it $80,000 a year, and you say, you know what, I don't want to weld anymore, I want to go be a business analyst. Well, even you're going to have to take 4 years off, 2 years off, however much it would be to get that degree, right? You could go to school part-time, sure, and then that'll extend your timeline, right? It might take you 6 years instead of 4 years or whatever it might be. Certainly an option. But you are also going to have to make less money. A business analyst right out of college that has no business analyst experience is going to make less money than if you were obviously 15 years and probably compared to your welding. So that makes a huge difference. But the starting off point is also something that is not even, and the ceiling is a much different place, right? When I was going to welding school, I remember having the pipe fitters union come in and talk to us, and they were like, you can make up to $110,000 being a pipe fitter. And it was like, well, cool, that's great, but that's at year 30, and it doesn't matter how good you are, that's your ceiling. Your ceiling is $110,000. And for me, that wasn't enough. I wanted a higher ceiling. I wanted to know that I could make a bunch more. Now, that's with the pipe fitters union. Of course, if you own your own welding shop, that's a whole different ballgame. But that was kind of the dream that they were toting us, is like, look, you can make $110,000. And that just wasn't it for me. So I think using opportunity costs as a way to start off this conversation is really critical. it can give you a really clear picture of what it means to take one choice over the other. However, rarely are you just presented with two choices. If you're 18 and you're about to graduate, you are probably like, okay, well, maybe I know for sure I'm going to go to college. Well, what college should I pick? Well, what's important to you? Is making the amount of money you make after college the most critical thing? Well, it's probably pretty easy to look up what's the average income of the graduate from this college versus this college. Super easy. Are you really big on the sorority scene or the fraternity scene of that college? Well, one might be better than the other. Are you really big on location and how close it is to home or how far away it is from home, right? That makes a huge difference. So this is one factor that you can use to start planning what you might want to do. It can be very useful. It's very mathematical, very objective. There's really no arguing with it, but it helps you identify what the nuances are, and then you can dive into those nuances to start that conversation about what you want to do.